Okay, so we're going to look at setting up a new project, importing footage and the workspace generally. So if we start off by obviously opening Premiere, we get the welcome screen here. We click on New Project, give our new project a name. Okay, obviously, familiar things here. We can browse to decide where we want to save it. And we can leave these other settings the same. Okay, and that creates our new empty project. So we've got the workspace here. Just make sure editing's selected at the top on the menu at the top here, and that will enable us to see the source window. We've got the project window here, so this is where we're going to import the footage that we're then going to put onto the timeline here, and this is where we can trim and edit the footage. Also the program window here, which will display what's on the timeline. Essentially, we've got the editing tools in the central panel here. So we're first of all, we're going to import our footage in. So if we go to File and Import, navigate to wherever we've saved our footage. So obviously, keeping organised, save all your footage for a project into the same folder. So we go into the footage folder. There's also a couple of audio files in here. So again, if you want to import audio in, you don't have to bring it all in at the same time, but that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to bring in the audio and the video footage. Is actually also a graphic here as well. You can bring in from Photoshop. So I'm going to select everything and open, and that'll import it all into the project window here. You can see we've got a series of different footage clips here. A couple of audio clips, and then we've got the graphic down at the bottom, the PNG. Okay, now what we can do if we want, we've got all these clips in the project window here. If I wanted to edit a clip in the source window here, so I'm editing the source before I put it onto the timeline. If I double click on one of the clips here, you can see we've got a short pan here. Okay, and if I wanted to trim that down, so say I wanted to trim it from, say, about here, I move the timeline to where I want it to trim the beginning, and I click on the mark-in tool here, and then I can scrub the needle to where I want the clip to end, and I click on the mark out tool here. So you see I've trimmed the clip down so it's about nearly half the size now, and then when I drag that onto the timeline, it's been pre-cut. Obviously I can still continue to edit it on the timeline, but I've kind of trimmed it down initially in the source window here. Okay, so I'm just going to select that clip on the timeline and then delete it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select a block of the clips, and I'm going to drag those onto the timeline, and you'll see here that it places them in the order that they appear in the project window. Okay, so we've got bridge track at the beginning here, followed by fog time lapse, etc. Now, if I want to see all the clips, you see the slider at the bottom of the timeline window here. I can just click and drag that to the right until I can see all the clips on the timeline. So there they are with the associated audio. So if the clips have any audio on them, that will be brought in as well. We've also got these additional audio tracks which are we've got voiceover and music, which are essentially non-diegetic. They're not part of the video. They've been created separately, so I could bring those in as well if I wanted. And again, you can see here we can have 3 audio tracks, and we've got 3 video tracks, so I can bring all those in. So I'll bring in the voiceover and the music. Okay, and then if you can see here, I can scrub the needle now in the timeline, and now in the program window rather than the source window, I can see what's happening on the timeline here. The media browser here, which is inside the project window. Again, this is another way of finding media and importing it into the project. So, we can navigate around here through various drives on the computer, various folders. We can search. So I can select a certain part of the computer and search for a desktop, for example, and then search that way. So it's another way of navigating around the computer for different assets and bringing them into the project. Okay, it's also worth mentioning here in the project window, you've got list view or icon view, like any other navigation window again. If we click on icon view here, you get these little previews of the clips, which can be really useful as well. And then if you mouse over the clips, they actually play in the little window as well, which is great. So a little preview of them before you decide what you want to bring onto your timeline. Okay, it's worth mentioning as well, when we bring a series of clips onto the timeline here, it names the sequence after the first clip that you brought onto the timeline. So you can see it's named the sequence bridge track, and this is the sequence here as well in the project folder. That's the icon for a sequence. All these are clips, but you see that the first clip we brought in was bridge track, so the sequence is called bridge track. So that's worth remembering. Obviously, you can rename sequences as well. So if you right-click and select rename, then that's like any other Adobe application. Another thing worth mentioning is organization. So you can create folders here. So I can create a folder that's actually called a bin in Premiere, but it's essentially a folder, and I can give that a name. So you can organize things as you wish. So I can select select all my clips and organize them into a folder here. So that was worth mentioning.